G'day, Harry Houdini here, and it is a lovely day here in Australia today. It's springtime. Yes, it's beautiful. Now, where are we with the CMK Skoda, I hear you ask? Well, it's coming along really nicely. Let me show you what I've got here. Oh dear, look at this. It's like a little bloody Japanese lunchbox, isn't it? That is the Skoda basically built. It's in pieces as I snapped off the tracks. Because remember, my little technique is not to glue the running gear on, is to basically have it all in pieces so that it can be painted separately. But and also the tracks, which I'll show you, because it's all about painting in this video, I tell you. But here, look, photo etchy stuff. It's all on, all the bit. Now, there was a lot more, but I actually found this kit was fairly detailed. And although Edward provided photo etch for a number of little bits and pieces and hatches and widgets and everything, I sort of went, oh, the detail's already there, why would I bother? You know, so there was a number of things, especially on the turret, where I went, oh, there's not much point really, it's looking really good, so I didn't bother. So I imagine there's, Edward sometimes does a one-size-fits-all sort of thing, and there might have been a less detailed version of this kit or a similar one, and their photo etch set suits everybody. And there's a lovely brass barrel on there. You see that? That's just mighty, that little brass barrel. It is so detailed. I don't know if it'll come up. I don't know if you can see it. And I'm wobbling all over the place because, as you know, I'm a bit of a gouty sort of person. I sort of wobble and everything goes on. But that doesn't matter. I can still model in my own fashion, well, after my own fashion. So there you go. That's where I am with the Skoda. And there's a little bit of camo on there that I tried, which was hand brushed on the bottom there. But in this video, I am going to try, oh dear, always doing new stuff. Doesn't matter, even if I fail, I'll show you, and you can learn from my mistakes, you know. Don't do what the Aussie idiot does. Now, all the tools are on there, which is not something I normally do. Normally I'll leave all the tools and everything off, right? There's a trick, and I'm trying this. I have used wood glue, right, just white glue, and I've tacked on things like the muffler and the tools, so that I can spray this, and hopefully, because the camo is going to go over most things, it's got to go over clamps and bits and pieces, but I'll still want to paint my tools individually. So I'm going to try a new trick. I've tacked them on there with the white glue, which means they'll pop off, and the white glue can be stripped easily with a little bit of ammonia, or window cleaner. And but for the purposes of painting, I can paint everything in situ, and then I can get all the camouflage over everything uniformly. That's the hope. And then when it all comes off and I paint up individual stuff, I'll just have to change the bits that don't need camo on. I hope that makes some sense. I don't know. I'm trying something new here. I'm experimenting, but that's what this hobby's all about. I mean, no point me doing the same stuff every time going, look, this is how I do this, because go back and watch the other videos. And I don't learn anything. And I want my videos to be more about me learning things, experimenting. And if I have success, I'll let you know. And if I have failures, I'll let you know. And I'll basically show you what kind of tricks can be done. And let's explore together. That's it. All right, so I'm going to get out the airbrush, and we're going to have a go at first priming this, and then doing a camo scheme using the blue tack method. Ooh, won't that be fun? Well, here we go. Harry Houdini's very first spraying of a tank using his new airbrush. Thanks, Peter. And some Ammo Mig acrylic primer. Now, I have tried out the Russian green one already on the BT7 turret because I wanted to see would it stick to plastic, aluminium and brass. And it did. That turret came out beautifully, just with a light application of the Mig primer. And this is all water-based stuff, so I'm not getting bleeding noses as I've complained about in the past. Although that was my mistake of using automotive thinners, which I was recommended on the Tamiya paints, but we we won't go on about that. I learnt my lesson there. Yeah, nosebleed for 4 days, bloody hell. Right, well this is this lovely Desert Sand Ammo Mig primer, and as you can hear, it even comes with a little ball bearing in there, a bit of depleted uranium no doubt, and that's really good for you know, shaking it up. Like most of the Ammo Mig stuff, I love that because you can really give it a good shake and get it all mixed. So let's see how we go here. Now I bought some Ammo Mig acrylic thinner, which as far as I can tell is just basically, from the smell of it, is just water and ammonia or Windex, you know. So we might try the Windex trick another day when you're not watching, because I think that's all we basically need here. But I'm going to go a ratio of about 80% primer, 20% thinner, probably maybe even more like 25 because I'm just going to guess it. And we'll see how we go. Now, some little things that I've done here, which you may know, if you know these things. Fast forward, you don't need this crap. I've got to hold things while I paint them, right? And this is always a problem. Now, I've got various jigs and things, and sometimes I use those, but today I looked for something I could shut up the arse of this turret, right, inside its little hole there, and that's actually a Tamiya weathering pen, and I've just covered it with a little bit of paper so that I don't get paint all over it. Not that it matters. Okay, now I'm going to paint the underside of it first. Okay, so because I'm going to paint the underside of it first, and this is a trick I use, I've tilted the barrel all the way up so I can get in and get that underside, right, of the barrel turning mechanism, the rotating piece. I'll get it painted first. And once that's sort of tack dry and hopefully it won't scratch, I'll tip my my turret barrel down, and I'll do the rest of the painting so I can get the top of it in. And that way hopefully the entire moving mechanism will get paint on. Because sometimes you forget, you paint it, you think, oh, that's good, and you know it's all finished and weathered, and then you tilt your barrel and go, oh bugger, how about that, forgot to paint that bit. And it's very hard to go in and hand paint those guys. But if you can get a little bit of undercoat on, problem solved. Okay, so that's going to get the first hit of the airbrush, but I thought I'll show you some other things. Now, notice it's all separate, and this is what I still haven't glued the top of the body to the lower section. It was actually clipped together. What I did was I glued all the side, the mud guards here, these little fellas on, and I put it all in, clicked it in, pushed it all hard together, so only that top section glue, and it would be really clickety tight. And that's how it was when I showed you the first video. But then a little bit of squeezing of the body and click, 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 off it comes. So that allows me down the track, my good mate Ennis, he said, I've got an interior for the 35T and I'll send it to you, but it's got lost in the mail somewhere. It'll turn up one day and then I'll do the interior, but I just want to get the outside of this tank finished. So for now, I'm just going to paint the outside, but I will be able to separate it all down the track. Are you getting what I'm saying? Am I waffling? Am I saying too much crap? I don't know. God, you know, you're watching it. You're silly enough to watch this stuff. Right, so that will need some green primer. I'll do that next. Always start with the lightest colours, of course. And we're going to paint everything in the lightest colour of the tricolour camo scheme, right? So I'm going to paint it all the very light desert sand first, and then I'll do the green and the brown. And we'll see how we go. All right, here we go. On camera for the first time. There may be an edit here because I may bugger this up. So, we're going to need some of this primer. So we'll put in a good splurge, an Imperial Slurp. I like these because look, one-handed, I can seal that up again. Oh, just love these little screw top little suckers. They're great. And I can also open, oh look at that, and we'll put in our thinner. I said I'm probably doing a ratio of 20 to 25% thinner to, yeah, it smells like ammonia. It smells like a clean toilet. Okay, and then there's my little, there's my Schwivy brush. Here's my Schwivy brush. Oh, I should be more organised these bloody videos. And we'll give that a little mix up in there. Okay, so that should have enough thinner so the primer can go on a bit thinner and should spray nicely. Not that I'm any expert with these little airbrushes. I mean, I've done stuff. but this is kind of new and exciting. Here we go. Right, so we'll just make sure we got paint. Yeah, we have got paint. A little wonderful little airbrush from my mate Pete. Well, so we'll do the underside. Very thin coat. We are just kissing the surface. And that is the trick with all painting. I mean, that's what I do with a rattle can, so the procedure will be no different here. Let's speed this up a little bit, hey? I'm sure you're getting a little bit bored, because I know I am. Now I've got that turret looking all nice and primed, and as I said, I tilted down the barrel to get the top bit done. So that's all good. I've got this little vase here that I actually use as my paintbrush washer outer. Now you may have noticed there's a little bit of wood sticking on here. Well, that's not some little custom part that I've scratch built to put on there. That's just out of my wood pile. And that gives me a nice little handy holder to paint this, because otherwise how are you going to do it? You know, you're going to get your fingers all over it, get bloody mitts and fingerprints everywhere. So I've just wood glued that on there, and that's now going to allow me to basically get in there and give this a paint. I'm not going to get it on my fingers. I can quite happily paint away anywhere that, you know, I think needs the paint. Isn't that mighty? And the thing is, I'll be able to turn that up that way too. So there you go. So I'll keep going with this, because you don't need to watch all this. Watch some bloody dickhead paint a bloody thing. That's boring. Yeah. We'll come back when I've sprayed all that and all the photo etches all blended in. Everything's just all desert sand. Well, there you go. It's got a coat of primer on it. There were some issues, and they're all my own fault and my inexperience. I did find you really need to up the pressure with the with this MIG acrylic primer, because at least here in Australian spring day, where it's kind of dry and warm, it was drying on the needle and clogging all the bloody time and splattering and really pissing me off. So I eventually realised I gave it a good sort of clean on the run, but then I upped the pressure to 30 psi, and that made a big difference. That made a huge difference. Kept the paint flowing, and also I added a bit more thinner. So I'm probably thinking more like, especially on a warm spring day like we have here in Australia, because it's probably about 24-25 degrees Celsius here at the moment. I don't know what that is in Frankenfurter. You can work it out. So, you know, that might be a hot summer's day for you. And it was drying pretty fast. So, yeah, probably more thinner and definitely more pressure. But look, I've got a coat of primer on it, and that's not going to be the final coat. And being a tank, you know, I'm going to get away with splatterations and bits. But that's why I'm basically testing on this, because we'll call it weathering. Yes, we will. Now, while I'm waiting for this undercoat to dry on the upper body, and I must say that Ammo Mig primer really has come up a trick. I am very impressed with its coverage, because I was worried about a bit of splattering, and worried it wasn't going to come out all sort of nice and even. But I tell you what, it's all smoothed out, and it all looks terrific. It really does. So you can see the little turret as well. It's come up mighty. I'm very happy with that. It's great stuff, and I've been really impressed with all this Ammo Mig stuff. Anyhow, got to wait overnight for that. I really want that to fully bond and really adhere to all of the surfaces before I move on and do anything else. So while I'm waiting, there's plenty of other things I can do. One of those is I can weather the tracks. Now, initially, I paint my tracks in German grey, okay, or dunkelgrau here, basically the same sort of thing. Not a black and not a light grey, a darkish grey, and dunkel grey or German grey, either of those two, which I don't think there's bloody much in it actually. They give me the kind of undercoat priming that I want. Now, I've done it with MIG, because I'm sort of on a MIG run at the moment and using my new airbrush. But previously I would just spray it with, to me, a rattle can. Or you could even hand paint it on, really, as long as you weren't too thick with the coat. Because you really don't want to fill up those tiny little holes. You want all the detail and all those holes and everything to remain. So you don't want too thick a coat on your track links. You want to be very thin. But once that's on, very quickly, in a couple of hours, you could do this. What do you think of that? Huh? Can you see what I've done there? That is my metallic effect that I use for track links. And it works for me, and I vary it a little bit, but essentially I always follow pretty well the same formula. And here it is. I'll share it with you, and I'll show you how it's done. So initially, prime with either Panzer grey, German grey, Dunkel grey, a dark sort of grey. Then, once that's dry, and usually leave that overnight, is I hit it with a panel line wash of dark brown. Okay, very thin wash of dark brown. Now that tends to change the grey and almost give it a titanium look. At least I think so. Certainly doesn't look grey anymore. It really has that kind of worn titanium sheen, and I like that. Then I go over and I put a little bit of flat rust on. Now this is a Taglieri, but it's just a red one, a very reddy rusty colour. I put that on. I'll show you how I do that. Once that's done, I then start with this, and I really love this thing, and I haven't found anything that's nearly as good as it. This set, and you can see I use it a lot, it's makeup. Well, it's makeup for tanks really. I then use the orange rust effect in this, and I randomly splatter that in the red one to get a snappy little effect, and I'll show you how I do that. Once that's done, and I've allowed that to dry a little bit, it doesn't take long because that stuff's just basically sort of pigments, I then hit it with the black. This is where I use black. So now I'll put black all over that. It tones in all the colours, darkens all the crevices, leaves my titanium sort of brown still there a bit, but basically starts to bring the whole thing into a very metal look. Then I take it further and I do all the highlights, rubbing with either a cotton bud or using the little device I got here, the nice little rubber, and I do all the bits that stick up and the bits that are going to be worn, I do them with the silver. And then I use the little brush here, and I take the, basically that's gunmetal, and I gunmetal the whole thing. Right? So once that's all done, you get this effect. I don't know how well it's turning up on camera, and probably need my fat fingers out the way. There we are. All right, and then I get that effect. So it's shiny on the worn edges. It's dark in the crevices. Overall, it's not German grey anymore. It's kind of got a metallic look. And the randomness of the red rust and the orange rust give me an effect that I find pleasing to my eye. Now, there's lots of debate on what colour tracks should be and how they should be done, but this is how I like to do mine. That's how they look when I'm finished. I like that. And if you like what I've done here, I'll show you how to do it. So here we go with stage one. Well, this is what we're aiming for. This is where we're trying to go. This is the effect I'm trying to get. So we'll just start. Get all this stuff out of the way. We'll just start with my track links. Now I've only got those little wheels there, so I knew which was left and which was right, because I'd already formed these around the body of the tank. So I knew that this side will fit here perfectly and that side will fit there, and that's my method. I like to do that first. Alright, so this part is very easy. I'm using this Tamiya panel line, but basically any sort of brown would work, but you need a wash, so you need it pretty thin. You could do it with oils, you could do it with enamels, you could do it any way you like. Alright, so I'm just going to paint half of this, just so you can see how it changes it. Now hopefully you can see the effect I'm going for. There's just German grey, that's the primer, and here is what happens when you put that light brown wash on. You get, although it's still drying, but you get what I think, in my opinion, is almost a titanium look. Now many of these track links were actually made from titanium, and they have this slightly brown look to them. And that's sort of been the general debate, people going, oh, they shouldn't be black, or they shouldn't be grey, they should be brown. Well, they kind of are. You get dust and mud and stuff on them. All depends on the terrain that's going on and the effect that you want. But I like what this does. I like this brown in there, and with the German grey I get this colour, and for me that's a great starting colour for my track link. So I'll get on with this and get that all over. I'll do on the inside as well. I'll do it everywhere, and then I'm going to leave that to set basically. It needs at least a couple of hours, but I'll leave it overnight so it's absolutely dry before I do my next effects. Now this video is running a little bit long, and I don't like to keep you sitting forever watching my stuff, so we're going to go to a part 2 with this. Yes, I'm afraid you're going to have to sleep on it, and you're going to have to come back later. Ooh, it's what we call a cliffhanger in the business. So here's some photos of kind of how I was doing everything, and I shall see you in a couple of days' time.